In chapter 15 of his book, The Life and Works of Rizal, Rizal delves into the origins of the Filipino race and its various ethnic groups. He cites the work of Austrian ethnologist Franz Blumentritt, who conducted extensive research on the Philippines and its people. Blumentritt's research led him to conclude that the Philippines had been populated by a variety of ethnic groups over the centuries, including the Aitas or Negritos, who were the earliest inhabitants of the archipelago. Rizal also references the work of Frenchman J. Montano, who classified the three major races in the Philippines based on the physical characteristics. The Negritos were described as short, dark-skinned, and curly-haired, while the Indonesians were tall, fair-skinned, and had straight hair. The Malays, who made up the majority of the population, were darker-skinned and heavier built. Rizal believed that the intermingling of these various ethnic groups over time had resulted in the unique characteristics of the Filipino people. He also recognized the importance of understanding the origins of the Filipino race in order to better appreciate its diversity and cultural heritage.
The Philippines were first occupied by people who arrived in small migrations from mainland Southeast Asia. One of these people are the Malays. About 2,300 years ago, Malayan people arrived from the mainland in the Philippines and brought a more advanced culture, dairy, iron melting, and production of iron tools, pottery techniques, and the system of sawas or rice fields. The first recorded Malay in Philippine history was Sri Lumay, although accounts of him are mostly in Visayan folklore. Sri Lumay was born in Sumatra, an island in Indonesia with a high Malay population, and was a mix of Malay and Tamil descent. In the case of Rizal's roots, his ancestry is a mixture of races. Rizal's mother was said to be a descendant of the pre-Hispanic Tagalog or Malay nobility of Manila, Lacandula. Rizal having a Malay blood is natural since the ancestors of the vast majority of the Philippine population were of Malay descent and came from the Southeast Asian mainland as well as from what is now Indonesia.
Jose Rizal and his Chinese ancestors. National hero Jose Rizal would have been known as Jose Ko, the great-great-grandson of Shangko and Zonio from Fujian, China. Although Rizal now has several streets, provinces, and barrios named after him for his martyrdom, many still wonder why his father had a different surname. Jose Protasio Mercado y Alonso, popularly known as Jose Rizal, was the seventh of 11 children of Francisco Ignacio Mercado and Chodora Alonso of Binyan, Laguna. The national hero traced his roots to the district of China in Fujian. From Fujian, Shangko and Zanio migrated to the Philippines in 1690. At 35, Ko was baptized into the Catholic faith in Binondo, acquiring his Christian name Domingo Ko, and married a Chinese mestiza, Ines de la Rosa. Ko was close friends with Spanish friars Francisco Marquez and Juan Caballero, who had enticed him to settle in the Farsa estate in San Isidro Labrador in Binyan, where he helped develop irrigation system in the area. The union of Go and De La Rosa produced a son in 731. The offspring acquired the Christian name Francisco Mercado. Francisco was derived from one of Go's friar friends, while Mercado meant market in Spanish, signifying his future job as trader. The young Francisco married Bernarda Monica, a native of the nearby hacienda in San Pedro Laguna, and bore children Clemente and Juan, who would be Rizal's grandfather. In 1783, Francisco Mercado was elected gobernadorcillo or municipal mayor of Binyan, while Rizal's grandfather Juan Mercado was elected Capitan del Pueblo of the same town in 1808, 1813, and 1823. Juan Mercado married Cirila Alejandro, a Chinese mestiza, and had 13 children, and one of them was Rizal's father, Francisco Ignacio Mercado. Rizal's grandfather died when Francisco Ignacio was only 8, and the child helped his widowed mother run the family business. Francisco Ignacio was studying Latin and philosophy at the Colegio de San Juan de Litran when he met his wife Chodora Alonso y Riolonda, who was studying in Colegio de Santa Rosa. Francisco Ignacio and Chodora raised their family in the rented estate from the Dominican order and produced rice, corn, and sugar cane. In 1848, Governor General Narciso Claveria decreed that Filipino and Chinese immigrants adopt Spanish family names, and Francisco Mercado opted to adopt Rizal, which means green field. However, his new surname confused many of his businesses, associates, and patrons, forcing him to change it to Rizal Mercado. In 1865, during his studies in Ateneo Municipal de Manila, Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado dropped his second last name to disassociate himself from his brother Pasiano, who was then under surveillance of Spanish authorities because of his links with a martyred Filipino priest, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. Rizal also needed a fresh identity so he could travel freely abroad without the hassles of Spanish Inquisition. Today, in Philippine history, May 11, 1818, Francisco Mercado was born in Binyan, Laguna.
The Spanish at first viewed the Philippines as a stepping stone to the riches of the East Indies or the Spice Islands. But even after the Portuguese and Dutch had foreclosed that possibility, the Spanish still maintained their presence in the archipelago. The Portuguese navigator and explorer Ferdinand Magellan headed the first Spanish foray to the Philippines when he made landfall on Cebu in March 1521. A short time later, he met an untimely death on the nearby island of Mactan. After King Philip II, for whom the islands are named, had dispatched 3 further expeditions that ended in disaster, he sent out Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, who established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu in 1565. The Spanish city of Manila was founded in 1571, and by the end of the 16th century, most of the coastal and lowland areas from Luzon to northern Mindanao were under Spanish control. This could be traced down that Dr. Jose Rizal had a Spanish ancestry.
Jose Rizal had some Spanish ancestry. Rizal's Spanish roots can be traced through his paternal lineage. His father, Francisco Mercado Rizal, came from a family with mixed Filipino, Chinese, and Spanish ancestry. Francisco's father, Juan Mercado, was a Chinese mestizo, while his mother, Cirela Alejandro, had Spanish roots. This Spanish lineage of his father's side is where Jose Rizal inherited his surname Rizal. It is important to note that the use of Spanish surnames was common among the Filipino elite during the Spanish colonial period, and it was often a symbol of social status. On his mother's side, Rizal had less prominent Spanish ancestry. His mother, Teodora Morales Alonso Rialonda y Quintos, was of predominantly indigenous Filipino background with some distant Spanish ancestry. Regina Ochoa, a grandmother of his mother Teodora, had mixed Spanish, Chinese, and Tagalog blood. His maternal grandfather was a half Spanish engineer named Lorenzo Alberto Alonso. Rizal's mother's family had connections to local elites, but her lineage was not as Spanish influenced as her husband's. Rizal's Spanish roots did play a role in shaping his perspective and his ability to communicate his ideas effectively to both Filipino and international audiences. However, his dedication to the Philippines and his desire for social and political reforms were deeply rooted in his love for his homeland and his concern for the Filipino people.
The Japanese presence in the Philippines dates back centuries, but significant interaction and influence can be traced to the 16th century, when Japanese merchants and traders began arriving. They were known to trade goods and share cultural exchanges with the locals. Over time, this interaction led to intermarriages, contributing to the diverse ancestry of some Filipino families, including the Mercado Rizal family.
In the case of Rizal family, Teodora, the mother of Jose Rizal, had Spanish and Japanese ancestors, showcasing the cultural and genetic mix within the family. This multicultural background is a testament that the Mercado Rizal family had also Japanese, Spanish, Malay, and Negrito blood aside from their Chinese blood.